Why do you suffer more in your head than in real life? The answer is simple but brutal, because your mind is a machine that creates problems that don't even exist. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "Our life is what our thoughts make of it." In other words, you don't suffer because of reality. You suffer because of the horror movie playing in your head. Think about it. How many nights have you lost, imagining terrible scenarios that never happened? How many times have you tortured yourself thinking, what if I lose my job? What if they don't like me? What if I fail? In reality, nothing had happened yet, but in your mind, you already lived through the whole tragedy. It's like life is just a sparring match on the mat, but your mind turns it into a never-ending anime battle, like Attack on Titan. You're not fighting a real enemy. You're fighting monsters created by your imagination. And the worst part? Those monsters are usually way scarier than reality itself. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, betrayals, plagues, famine, and the responsibility of ruling an empire. And even then, he said the greatest enemy wasn't out there, it was inside. Because the human mind has a special talent for turning small things into catastrophes. Take this example. A student has to give a 10-minute presentation. In real life, he'll speak for a while. Some people will listen, others will be on their phones, and then everyone forgets about it. But in his head, it feels like the final judgment scene in Death Note. He imagines himself stuttering, people laughing, fainting, his whole life falling apart. And in the end, none of that happens. He suffered 10 times more before the event than during it. That's why Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he knew what he was talking about. Exile, political conspiracies, death threats. Still, he noticed that the cruelest pain wasn't life itself, it was the mind. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You are a master at torturing yourself. You create apocalyptic scenarios, fake arguments, imaginary failures. And then you feel exhausted, as if you had actually lived through all of it. It's like binge-watching Black Mirror in your own head. Your brain produces episodes, and you have no choice but to watch them. And here's the irony. Humans are the only species that suffer before things happen. A dog only gets anxious when thunder strikes. You, on the other hand, hear that it might rain next week, and you start suffering today. That means you don't just live the real pain. You also pay emotional interest on pain that doesn't exist. Marcus Aurelius understood this and said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Translation: the problem isn't the problem. The problem is how you think about the problem. Imagine this. You go to a job interview. In reality, either you get it or you don't. End of story. But in your head, you're already homeless, broke, begging on the streets. That's the mind's trick. Pop culture shows the same thing. In Naruto, characters suffer more over the idea of failure than over actual failure. In Spider-Man, Peter Parker suffers more from the thought of, "With great power comes great responsibility," than from the punches of villains. How many times have you noticed this? The fear of the exam was worse than the exam. The fear of heartbreak was worse than the breakup. The fear of criticism was worse than the criticism. Reality hurts, but your imagination, that's torture. The Stoics gave us the solution: awareness. Notice when your brain is inventing disasters. Presence. Focus on the now. The present is never as heavy as your fears. Acceptance. Real pain is inevitable. Imaginary pain is optional. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." So ask yourself, how many years of your life have you already wasted suffering over things that never happened? At the end of the day, your mind is like that friend who exaggerates every story. Something small happens, but they make it sound like the end of the world. That's exactly what your thoughts do. But here's the twist. You don't have to believe everything your brain says. You can step back, watch the mental movie and say, "Okay, this is just my mind talking nonsense." And just like that, the weight drops. Marcus Aurelius fought real wars, but he discovered the true battlefield was inside the mind. And if even an emperor couldn't escape it, why would you? So here's the choice. Do you want to keep suffering twice, once in your imagination and once in reality? Or suffer only when it's truly necessary? Because while you're busy suffering in your head, life is passing out there. If this made sense to you, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who suffers for free.